So, Rupert, I'm going to talk about familiars again, Loretta said and added, and I need to be serious here because your life depends on it. Okay, Rupert said. Remember when I said I've got to convince you to come work for me, then convince my mother that you are fulfilling the role of a familiar in spite of the fact that you were not a girl nor a demon, Loretta said and then added, which included persuading the CIA not to shoot you. Yes, I do remember that, Rupert said. How could I forget it? Well, so far I've done 2 out of those 3, which was convince my mother you're worthy of the effort, and in turn she's going to convince the CIA that I have a right to make that effort, Loretta said. Which saves me, Rupert said and added, in spite of the fact that I'm not a girl nor a demon. Right, and since converting you into a demon is impossible, I'm going to have to opt for the other alternative, Loretta said. Which is convince you to come work for me as my familiar. But you told me that only females can become familiars, Rupert said, paused and suddenly took a step back. And that's still true, Loretta said. So instead of killing me, or wiping my brain, you're just going to do other acts, Rupert said, falling back into the chair. Actually, Rupert, I was thinking along the lines of simply transfixing things a little, Loretta said. Which more or less keeps you alive, keeps your brain intact and keeps your penis attached just the way it was intended. Wait, what? Rupert asked, sitting up as he added, I'm not going to become female. Not in the way you're thinking? No, Loretta said and then added, look, I've convinced my mother this is a new age. Which by the way it is. I'm not following you, Rupert said. Rupert, in the past men born to witches, that is men who were kept to become familiars, had a penectomy and orchiectomy performed on them, Loretta said and then added, the lack of hormone production through the loss fostered the feminization process. So they became female, Rupert said. As close as a male can become, Loretta said and then added, of course over time they were taught to lie female and very passable. Considering the times, it was the only workable solution to a society with very narrow views and limited medical procedures. But you're talking about modern times, Rupert said. Yes. In my mother's generation they actually allowed for limited changes, Loretta said. A number of familiars were men born to witches that were allowed to have changes. Sons born to witches were allowed to live as daughters till they were old enough to become women. These were more workable solutions as medical procedures expanded. And this is where I come in, Rupert said. Actually no, Loretta said and then added, you're actually taking it a step further. How's that? Rupert asked. Rupert, I'm introducing a new generation of familiars, Loretta said and then added, you'll be our first transfixed familiar, I hope. What is that? Rupert asked cautiously. Primarily male who dresses female. In your case you'd be mostly a cross-dressing male to play the role of a familiar. I guess you'd say you're a female-appearing familiar, Loretta said. Which by definition means no change, although I'd ask for some secondary characteristics be fixed or feminized perhaps, but your primary remains male. You might live female, feminine perhaps, but you will remain male. Explain what you mean by secondary characteristics fixed or feminized, Rupert said. Let your hair grow longer, nails longer as well, legs smoother, electrolysis, that sort of thing. Learn makeup. The clothing obviously leaning more feminine. Mostly just the hints and mannerisms that would convince someone spying on us that the young girl living with the witch is in fact more a young girl than a young man, Loretta said before adding, while that young girl and witch enjoy a fairly normal male-female relationship. For how long? Rupert asked. Forever, Rupert, Loretta answered. What about college? Rupert asked. You could continue taking classes en femme, but with a masculine flair. That is to say you could go to school more masculine than feminine but not too much to give the CIA anxiety attacks, or if that bothers you then homeschool till you become more comfortable with yourself, Loretta said. So I could wear pants, Rupert said. Of course, Loretta said and then added, albeit, girls wear pants. What else? Rupert asked. To satisfy our coven of course and become a familiar you'd have to take on a secondary major as a herbalist, Loretta says. I don't know the first thing about plants, Rupert said. It wouldn't be that difficult becoming a practicing herbalist, Rupert. I'm one by default as a witch. The advantage is we have also adapted the Herbalist Guild so you could get your 1,600 hours of practical easily here working with me, Loretta said. While convincing the world I'm a girl, Rupert said. Which would be secondary and ultimately second nature if you're willing to apply yourself, Loretta said and added, another field of study. Another field of study, Rupert said laughing as he added, so, I'm majoring in engineering with a minor as a herbalist and girl. Pretty much, Loretta said laughing a little. I can see getting grades in engineering, even in the study of herbs, Rupert said, but how do I know what level I'm at as a girl?